Listen, the buyers have all the tools they need to figure out whether the price on your house is the same as the other houses in the neighborhood. They don't need to come to me anymore. They can go on any of the platforms on the internet. There's several of them, popular ones like Zillow, and they can see all the red dots and all the sold prices and what's under contract and what's available. This is the data we used to give out, from our paper years ago. But now it's very transparent. Everything's on there. So they don't need to come to me to make that decision anymore. They've already done the homework before they show up at your house. So pricing is critical because, again, the buyers have all the information they need. Everything's online. So before they decide to step out of their front door and step into yours, they're going to look at the price and decide, is your house priced like what the other homes sold for in the marketplace in the last 6 months to a year? There is a formula and a strategy behind pricing. It's definitely, I would say, the most important part of real estate is the price. And we have to sort of be objective together as partners, right? I'm going to give you the information about the homes that have sold over the last 6 months, year, and try to get as much data for you that I can so I can explain to you and show you what these homes look like and what they sold for and how many days on the market it took. Because pricing, if you don't get the price right, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to sit longer, and I know it's the hardest thing a seller has to deal with because this is your home. It's a place where you raised your family. And I understand that, it's emotional for you. So I like to just try and go over why and show you photos and give you the same data. I'm going to be really transparent and tell you, these are things that we have to say, let's take ourselves out of the equation. Let's think like a buyer thinks. Let me tell you how the buyers think. And then try to get you to understand from my point of view, how I come to that determination. And it's not hard, but it is emotional because everybody loves their home. Everybody loves their home. And believe me, I love your home too when I come in, but I'm not the one buying it. So my job is to be as objective as possible and as transparent as possible in getting you to understand the numbers. The numbers are critical. So what actually happens when a home is overpriced? Well, here's what happens. It could be beautiful. It can be painted. It can be, the shiny penny. But when the price is too high, what happens is you'll see a disconnect, right? So the buyers, they may go on their favorite platform. Let's just call it Zillow for now. And what you'll see is you'll have, 60 saves, 70 saves, and there'll be 2,000 views or 1,500 views. And when you're not getting showings, there's a disconnect. That's where the disconnect is. The disconnect is those people that have viewed your home have already decided, I'll wait. I'm going to sit on the sidelines. I'm going to see. I don't think you're serious about selling, and nobody wants to come if you're not serious. Nobody wants to come and get involved with a seller that doesn't really want to sell their home because that's what the buyers think. The more days that you spend on market, buyers start asking questions like, what's wrong with this house or what's up with that house, right? These are the questions I get asked all the time from the buyers. What about that house? Why is it still sitting there? Right? They start to wonder, is there something wrong with the house? Because they just, that's naturally what happens. If something's sitting there a while and it doesn't, there's nobody coming and there's no showings and no action, everyone's thinking, And then you have your other group of buyers that are savvy and have done their research and homework, and they're saying, nah, I'm not coming, until I think the price is right. What do you think are first impressions? What do you think is important about a first impression when you're driving up to a home, looking at the landscaping? What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of holds true for more traditional landscaping and the ecological restoration work that we do. It has to look purposeful. If it looks wild, if it looks, kind of ratty, people will look at that and say, ooh, that needs to be updated, as opposed to a thoughtful landscape that, takes into account things like layering. You can use some taller plants, but those should be layered towards the back.
Right, not covering the front of the house.
That's right. And then as you move forward towards walkways and like the lawn transition, the plant should be increasingly shorter. I think a big mistake that a lot of native landscape types make is they treat every project as sort of a restoration project.
Yeah.
So we'll do work at big preserves, acres at a time, and a plant like New York aster. It's a beautiful plant, but it's 9 feet tall and doesn't bloom until the fall. So people and it tends to flop. So people, who will incorporate some of these bigger plants into like a foundation garden, that's just kind of, in my opinion, gives like native landscaping a sort of a black eye.
Right. And then if we're marketing a home, like let's say in the fall or the winter,
right,
we have these big floppy plants, right, that we're looking at.
Yeah.
Not really pretty.
So with, just traditional landscaping and ecological restoration, and the first thing I would say is, plant choice and then the layout of the plants. But as far as like making a connection, for our biggest sell, I think, is the connection that we allow people to make with nature. So if they pull up to the site and they see butterflies flittering around, right, or a hummingbird or something,
they're like, "Ooh, I like it here already."
I like it. It's a sense of place that we offer.
Yes.
So it's a having it wild enough to attract the nature and really pack ecological punch, while also making it look like traditional landscaping, is something that I think that we do well, that other, my peers should try to do, because it's really about, connecting people with nature.
Preserving nature, right? Yes.
That's right.
Agreed. So Linda, what does staging actually mean versus interior design?
Well, that's a good question, because I get that all the time. Interior design is when I would come in and help a person personalize their home in a way that pleases them. And it can be, it can be crazy colors. It can be modern furniture. It can be crazy artwork. It can be anything that they want to. That is highly personal. But when you're selling a home, it has to be much more
depersonal.
I guess depersonalization. But you want to kind of give them beyond just boring realtor beige. You know how they say,
yes,
realtor beige. You want to have some pizzazz in there, but you have to think about the buyer population, the demographic of the area. What are those people? What stage of life are they in? Are they 55 and over? Are they a young family? Is it predominantly a single woman or a single guy buying the house? You change your design based on the majority of the population.
Our buyers are sophisticated. They're savvy. Many of them come from New York City. They've seen a lot of properties. They know what things cost. And they're not going to they're not going to pay North Shore prices for a home that feels like it's been unloved. But they absolutely will go and pay top dollar for a home that's priced correctly and shows beautifully. I see it every season. The listings I'm most proud of aren't necessarily the fanciest homes I've sold. They're the ones where we did the work up front and priced it right, got it ready, shot it beautifully, and then watched the market respond exactly the way we told the seller it would.